Right, so those are the voices of the people who are there in Kabul, in Afghanistan at the moment. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Blinken has called the Afghan mission a success after US evacuated its embassy staff from Kabul earlier today. Meanwhile, an Air India flight has also landed in Delhi from Kabul with 129 passengers. As per sources, this could very well be the last flight and the last opportunity for evacuees from India. In fact, sources say that India is also now closely monitoring the fast-changing situation in Afghanistan to decide on further plans of evacuation of diplomatic officials from Kabul.
From Kabul, so the Kabul was occupied by Taliban, and I think there will be a new government. There will be a new government, maybe a new settlement. So yet it's not clear who will be next president, what will happen. So everyone is waiting.
ट्रैफिक जाम बहुत था एयरपोर्ट के टाइम पे जब हम लोग आ रहे थे, बट मोस्टली वहाँ पे स्टेबल ही है। जहाँ तक मैंने देखा है इट्स स्टेबल। काबुल में कोई फायरिंग वायरिंग कुछ नहीं चला। फोर्सेस हैव सरेंडर्ड टू द तालिबान ऑन अ पीसफुल नोट।
लेडीज के लिए खतरा है क्या डर है?
सबके लिए मम्मी जान।
We've been speaking to a number of intellectuals, writers who have operated out of Afghanistan, diplomats as well. So the fall of Ashraf Ghani government, as they say, and the return of Taliban is inevitable at the moment from the developments that we are tracking. But how did we get here? And what next for a country like Afghanistan? Let us help our viewers understand this. In order to do that, we spoke to one of the most authoritative voices on Afghanistan, David Lyon. From 2017 to 2018, David Lyon worked as strategic communications advisor in the office of Afghan president. He has had a 37-year-long career as a foreign correspondent, with several of those years spent covering Afghanistan. He is also the author of The Long War, the inside story of America in Afghanistan since 9/11. Let's listen in to what David Lyon has to say about what we see happening in Afghanistan today.
The end of Ashraf Ghani's government is almost inevitable. But did you anticipate just this complete collapse of the Afghan security forces so soon? They've just packed down like a pack of cards, and Taliban has faced little to no resistance at all. What explains this swift takeover by the Taliban?
No, and Arti, I and many other people who look at Afghanistan very closely were wrong. I was on radio programs in London only a couple of weeks ago, 10 days ago, saying that the Afghan army, although they were going to fold in the countryside, and in a sense that was a strategy of the Afghan state to give up some of those remote districts. At one point, they had 3,000 checkpoints strung out right across the country. They couldn't manage all of those, so the plan was to fold into the cities. But I thought that they would hold the cities. I thought they would hold the main cities in particular and the main highways. Afghanistan had some 30,000 special forces who are among the best in the region. I mean, they're really, really good soldiers. But it turned out that behind them, the Afghan army, the regular Afghan army, was just completely hollowed out by corruption. And I think what we've seen is the Taliban rather skillfully both getting into cities ahead of the forces. So they didn't come in by force. They came in on the back of motorbikes. So they were already there when they needed to take the city. And at the same time, negotiating deals with commanders, generals of the Afghan army, which actually is the old-fashioned Afghan way of doing war. So there weren't major clashes, but there were effectively negotiated handovers. But it happened so much more quickly than any of us expected. I was talking last weekend, actually, only a week ago, to a very senior British military officer, and both he and I agreed that this was going to be several weeks, that the special forces would hold out, that potentially there was a negotiated political settlement, even though it looked a bit rocky at the time. Well, how wrong we were.